What's up, y'all? It's your boy Prez at underscore Presidente on X, at Presidente on Blue Sky, and I'm here to do a quick investigation on Jericho Sims, who's been playing well of late by his standards, which to me basically means he's been playing like a serviceable backup center instead of a really bad one. Here's what Jericho Sims had to say when he was asked about going back to Sims in the second game versus the Nets after giving Ariel Hukporti 30 minutes in the first game, where Hukporti played pretty well, all things considered.
When you look at Jericho's, he's number one center in defensive field goal percentage in the restricted. Right.
So Tibbs is talking about his defensive field goal percentage in the restricted area. It's pretty much the only good tracking stat, and it's not even that helpful early in the season, to be honest, because the sample sizes are so small. You can see here who's been defending the most shots in the restricted area in the NBA. It's guys like Chet, Alex Sarr, Pirtle, Nick Richards, all centers, Wemby here. And you see their defensive field goal percentages allowed beginning to stabilize. You still get some crazy numbers. I know Cat and Vooch, for example, are like 70%. They've defended pretty horribly at the rim. Wemby, 38%. That would be among the best numbers I've ever seen. Chet doing his thing for the best defense in the NBA, 43%. Rudy Gobert usually shows up somewhere here, having a poor start to the season by his standards. It's a stat that you kind of have to use in context. It's not a be-all, end-all because it doesn't account for shots that opponents don't take because they're scared of you at the rim. Some centers like Mitch are really good at getting people to not shoot at the rim. Others like Isaiah Hartenstein and Jericho Sims are gonna get tried by opponents, and they're pretty good at just trying to stop them when they do get tried. So let's look at the Knicks real quick. This is their list of who's defended at the rim and how often. Josh Hart oddly at the top. That's how you know we're still dealing with some funky sample sizes. And sure enough, if you look down here, Jericho Sims only allowed a 33% opponent field goal percentage. Ariel Hukporti right on his heels, 40% in terms of defense at the rim. So does that mean he's a better rim protector, 33% than Wemby? Obviously not, but I wanted to look at the tape and see what popped up. Synergy tracks a little bit differently, but we can see exactly how he's been defending at the rim in the half court, or at least some of the plays. You can see opponents 7 for 17, really small sample size. 41%, pretty good number. So I wanted to take a look at those and see how he's been defending at those rim attempts. Let's start earlier in the season. He was having more trouble earlier than he was later because he's been playing really well lately. All right, here we started out the season in deep drop. That's pretty good defense. Had some help from OG, but Jericho got that joint. Nobody boxed out the unicorn, unfortunately. All right, next play. Let's take a look. This is an example of how tracking stats are kind of bad. This was credited to Jericho as a defensive possession against the shot at the rim, despite him playing with Hukporti. Pacers, semi-transition. Jarris tries him one-on-one. I don't really know what Jericho was doing. That was pretty bad defense. To me, Jericho had a lot of struggles early on in drop. He's not particularly great backpedaling. That was pretty good though. The thing about Jericho is he has the length and height of a power forward, not a center. And even though he has hops, he doesn't jump as high backwards as he does going forward for alley-oops. But that's textbook. Swallows Tobias Harris attempt cold. All right, we see a little Spain action, and Sims stays with it. Versus Cade, pretty good defense, backpedaling. Cade's not the best finisher in the world, but credit where credit's due. Here he's a switch versus Holland. And again, not really at the rim. Maybe the whoever was logging this, the synergy, got confused. Jericho against Steven Adams. Handoff. High pick and roll with the majestically athletic Amen Thompson. And pretty good defense. Amen Thompson is an elite athlete, and Jericho jumped right with him. All right, versus Houston again. Let's see. Fred rejects the screen, has Jericho in drop. That's just the worst goaltend of all time. I remember laughing when that joint happened. Jericho, put your hands down. You know what you did. Pick and roll with Deuce. Going downhill versus Jalen Green, who's explosive. And not great defense. Jalen didn't really feel him at all, and Jalen's about 100 pounds skinnier. Jericho in an aggressive coverage here, and then staying on the switch. I don't really know what happened there, but good job not fouling. Trey, he's in deep drop against this now. Look at that. This is among the worst defensive rim possessions because look, he's not really defending Capella or Trey. Trey gets an easy shot at the rim, misses. Sims didn't really do anything to earn that, but it gets credited to him nonetheless. Always the danger in using the stats without the context for that reason. Versus the failing Hawks here. Jericho, the Giannis stopper. Okay, maybe not. I'm not going to say bad defense. I'm just going to say that's Giannis being Giannis. Dropping again. Pretty good defense, but it's one of those things where you have undersized centers. They can play good defense and it doesn't matter because they don't bother opponents as much no matter how high they jump. That's one of the arguments for playing Hook Porty more that really holds weight to me, is you have higher margin for error as a big guy. Speaking of big guys, here's Andre Drummond. Help defense, boom. Get that shit out of here. Deep drop again versus Drummond. And not even a contest. Pretty bad defense in that instance. Now we're getting to the recent IST game. I almost made a whole video for Sims for this game because I thought he had an amazing game by his standards. Switching, solid defense. He switched over the course of these two games onto Schroeder and Cam Thomas at least 8 times, and I'm pretty sure they only scored once or twice. At the rim, that is. Cam hit a couple tough jumpers in his face. Here he's on Schroeder. This was my favorite possession of the entire game. You'll notice that in the Nets games and the game right before, we saw Jericho and the other centers out on islands a little bit more. They're allowing them to switch more. So you seeing Jericho get to play to his strengths a little bit more. Same with the rest of the Knicks, to be honest, because they're very switchy as a bunch. So there you go. 17 attempts at the rim on Synergy. Draw your own conclusions. I don't think he's an elite rim protector, but he's done pretty well for himself. And hopefully he can keep that up as long as Tibbs keeps playing him.